So again, welcome. April, my name is April Brohan. In the room, we also have Dr. Joe Sullivan, who's our Associate Dean for Academic Programs, with a great picture of his New Zealand Study Abroad program behind him. We have Kristen Coffey, who is our coordinator for recruitment. So you guys have probably gotten some emails between Kristen and I. Probably too many emails, but we apologize for that. We're just really excited. We have Heather Buchanan, who is our coordinator for student services, and she oversees orientation, academics, and even graduation. So she kind of bookends you once you start at Maryland as well. And then we have Becky Jones, who is the coordinator for student services in the Institute of Applied Agriculture, since we do have students who are admitted into the Institute, which is our 2-year certificate program here. So Becky will be able to answer any questions. And we have some of our lovely current students here as well. We have Monet Wilmore, who is a senior animal science student. Bella Carr, who is a junior animal science, no sophomore. One of those two, I apologize. Animal science student. Time is irrelevant right now. And then Erin Hyman, who is one of our environmental science and technology students, who I believe is also a junior. Maybe not, but anyway. They've been here a while and they're here to help answer your questions as well. But the star of our show is our dean, Dr. Craig Beyrouty. So I'm going to turn it over to him to say hello and some opening remarks. So Dr.
April,
Beyrouty.
thank you. You bet, I appreciate that. And hey, it's great to see everybody. Thanks for taking time and spending the next hour or so with us. I know that for all of you that this is a big decision in terms of, you know, your next step, where you want to go in terms of your academic career. And this is an opportunity that our academic programs group, which is the group that you just met, really put this opportunity together so that maybe we could address some of your questions and field whatever you're thinking about might be confusing, or you want to learn a little bit more about the College of Ag and Natural Resources, or you just want to learn more about the University of Maryland. And so this is our opportunity to do that. I'm going to set the stage a little bit, just share with you some aspects of my background, and then the uniqueness of the University of Maryland, just to give you an idea about where we hope that you'll decide to come in the future. So I grew up in California. In fact, I grew up in Los Angeles, California, in the middle of the city. My dad actually was a policeman in LA, and here I am coordinating an agricultural program here as well. And a number of you may not actually have had a background on a farm or have grown up in a rural environment. You might have grown up in a city like I did. The unique thing about agriculture and the natural resources is that it's broad enough so that anybody who has an interest in the human dimension, in the environment, in global issues, in improving and enhancing the lives and livelihoods of others, agriculture and the natural resources is a big umbrella, and allows so many people from so many different backgrounds to actually have an academic home here, and also, I think, a wonderful career in the future as well. I had no idea what I wanted to do when I was an undergraduate student. As a matter of fact, I moved around from one university to the next. I was at a very small institution to begin with, Loyola University of Los Angeles, had 2,000 students. I then went to UCLA that had 40,000. I ended up at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo that had about 27,000 students. I loved every campus that I was on. What happens is that it doesn't matter if it's a small campus or a large campus, you end up finding your home, your niche, the people that you interact with. It could be the largest campus in the United States, and it becomes very, very small because you're going to be interacting with other students, you're going to be interacting with your advisor, you're going to be interacting with your teachers. And that's a unique thing about a College of Agriculture and Natural Resources, is that you're going to be, unlike maybe other colleges that are really, really big, our college is pretty small, relative speaking. In fact, our student to faculty ratio is about 8 to 1, 8 students to 1 faculty member, which is pretty darn small, which is pretty good, which means you're going to know who your teachers are. You're going to get to know them really, really well. And you'll get to know the students here as well while you're here during the years that you're here. While I was at the university, and the reason why I'm giving you some of this background is that these are some of the things I hope that you'll experience while you're here as well. So when I was an undergraduate student, I decided to get into soil science. I mean, soil science, who figured that there's a major in dirt, right? but it turned out that I was turned on to this by a counselor. He said, this something sounds like you might be interested in. I took my first class in soil science, loved it. And for 2 years while I was going to school, this is my sophomore and junior year, I interned with at that time it was called the Soil Conservation Service. Now it's called the Natural Resource Conservation Service. So living in California, I actually mapped soils for the Soil Conservation Service in Oregon. And I did that for a couple of summers and absolutely loved it. From there, I ended up getting a job with Dole pineapple, Dole bananas, right? I worked on one of their commercial farms in the Midwest, then went on to graduate school, and then from there ended up getting my PhD and working and teaching and loving every minute of having a career in a university setting. And what you'll find is that the folks that you'll be surrounded with in the College of Ag and Natural Resources are very similar to me from the standpoint that the reason that they came to the university, the reason that they got their PhDs, or the reason that they're working in support areas like in academic programs is that they have a passion. They have a passion for students. They have a passion for education. They want to see that you achieve your career goals, whatever those goals might be. They want to provide that level of support for you. And they want to do it in a way that's exciting, not just in the classroom, but also outside of the classroom as well. And I think we have some questions associated with all aspects of the learning environment here. So I don't want to spend a lot of time presupposing these questions. Let's go ahead and answer those questions. But again, on behalf of the faculty and the staff, I am very, very excited that you are considering the University of Maryland. And we want to make sure that when you leave today, your questions are answered. So April, I'll go ahead and stop there and hand it over to you.
Excellent. So yeah, we're really excited that you're admitted and that you're here today. So we're very excited. Dr. Beyrouty, our first question for you is, have you ever felt overwhelmed? Excuse me, I have the wrong page in front of me. My first question for you is, how would you summarize the experience of being a student within the College of Ag and Natural Resources?
I've been associated with a number of universities before, and I would say that the University of Maryland is probably one of the most stimulating campuses that I've ever been on. And the students that come here, by the way, and we've got 3 of them that are here, or 4 of them that are here, I think, that they can also tell you a little bit about their experiences. But this is an exciting campus. It's a big campus, and so there's a lot of things that are going on here, not only in terms of academics, but also in terms of your social life and in terms of getting involved in student organizations, internships, study abroad programs, interacting side by side with faculty and with graduate students in the laboratories. We have a campus farm that's on campus here that quite frankly is pretty unique. You really won't find much like that in any other university like ours. But the other thing is that 2 big things. One is that you're going to be taught by world-class faculty. These are faculty that are recognized around the world for the work that they've done and the work that they're continuing to do. For instance, we have a couple of faculty members right now that are actually working on the development of vaccines for COVID-19, believe it or not. And they're getting money from the National Institute for Health and from the National Science Foundation to really help try to advance that kind of work that they're doing. We have faculty working in all different kinds of areas of agriculture, food systems, the Chesapeake Bay, and they're working on ways of improving and enhancing the Chesapeake Bay, which is right in our backyard. They're looking at ways of ensuring that we have a sustainable agricultural production system, not only here in Maryland, but beyond. But then in addition to that, we're a land-grant university. And what a land-grant university means is that we are in a very unique class of institutions that you will find nowhere else in the world. Every state in the nation has a land-grant university, and they were established back in 1862 during the Lincoln era, during the Civil War, when they didn't even know that there was going to be a United States of America. Congress decided that they would establish a university system where research, classroom teaching, and extension were all melded together under one umbrella so that we could teach those who need and seek an education. We could do it with cutting edge research, and we could then extend that information to people who could use it. And you'll be involved in all aspects of that, and our students are involved in all aspects of that when they're here. Very, very exciting. My entire career in agriculture has been associated with land-grant universities, University of Arkansas, Colorado State University, Purdue, and here. But you know, University of Delaware, Cornell, Florida, those are all land-grant universities, and we all interact very closely together. And our students here at this institution interact with students at those institutions as well. So the networking is fantastic.
Excellent, thank you. How will AGNR help our students be prepared for a productive and impactful career?
Well, first of all, let me tell you that we were recognized about 3 years ago, which was 3 or 4 years ago, which was the last year that there was a survey done. Our undergraduate curriculum was in the top 5 in the nation in terms of return on investment, which means that students are getting an outstanding education here and they're getting jobs when they leave here. And that's actually borne out by the placement rate that we have for our students. We have one of the highest placement rates of any of our colleges on this campus. Over 95% of our students get jobs. The students that want to get jobs get jobs. About a third of our students, when they graduate, they go on to graduate school or professional school. About 2/3 of them get a job in a private organization or a government agency or you know, a non-government organization and the like. We also, one of the things that brought me here at the University of Maryland is the fact that we are, number one, the University of Maryland is highly recognized. I knew about the University of Maryland many, many years before I decided to come here. The reputation precedes itself. It's one of the outstanding land-grant universities and one of the outstanding public institutions, and that individuals who have the University of Maryland degree on their resume, that opens up a lot of doors. But the other aspect is we're located right near Washington, D.C. And when I was at Colorado or I was in Indiana or I was at Arkansas, I wanted to interact with the decision makers, but I couldn't because they were thousands of miles away. I get on the metro here, which is only a mile away. I go right into DC and I can interact with USDA, Food and Drug Administration. I can interact with the National Zoo. I can interact with, I mean, you name it, the decision makers are here. The ones who are deciding right now about COVID-19, they're here in Washington, D.C. There's no other land-grant university like ours that is this closely connected to the decision makers that you would actually have exposure to, not only by going there, but also by bringing these folks here as well. Just recently, 2 years ago, we had a previous Secretary of Agriculture for USDA come and speak to our faculty. And so we've had a number of individuals that are highly recognized, highly regarded, that can come here. And so the exposure that you get, the exposure that our students get is cannot be compared with anywhere else.
Definitely. So I think you touched on some of this, but what are some of the competitive advantages that AGNR offers our students who are still considering multiple options?
Sure. Or even multiple locations. Certainly multiple, let's talk about multiple options. So in most high schools, most students are not exposed to the agriculture and natural resources in the multiple disciplines that we have here. I sure wasn't. Growing up in LA, I had no exposure to agriculture. I sure didn't know what soil science was like. And it wasn't until I actually interacted with a faculty member at UCLA, and I was talking to him. He was a botany professor. I wasn't too interested in botany, although I was taking the class in botany. But I was telling him what I really wanted to do. At that time, I wanted to work outdoors. I wanted to benefit as many people as I possibly could. I wanted to do something of substance that really improved the lives and livelihoods of others. And as we talked over many, many days of possibilities and all, he opened my eyes to disciplines that I didn't even know existed. Ag engineering, for instance, or environmental horticulture or ag business. I mean, these were things that he was aware of that I wasn't. Soil science was another one. And as I investigated that, I looked into it a little bit more. I saw, you know, that's something that is intriguing to me. I think I'm going to try it. I didn't know that that was exactly what I wanted to do. As a matter of fact, before that, I had already switched my major a couple of times. And I think some of you may even be thinking about, well, what happens if I switch majors? We want to make sure that you're in the right major before you graduate, right? And so that's our focus, is to make sure that you are pursuing what you need to pursue in order to have a very fulfilling career. So this was actually my third major. I started as a philosophy major, I got into business, and then finally ended up in soil science. And I've never looked back. I embraced it by doing this internship with the Soil Conservation Service. That proved to me that I absolutely loved it. Went on to graduate school, worked for Castle and Cook. And those are the kinds of things that we want to make sure that you have that opportunity and experience as well. And so when you come here, it's an opportunity to really learn about the various majors that we have, to see what really excites you, to do an internship while you're here, maybe even more than one internship, to get excited about that opportunity as well. And April, repeat the question for me, because I think I've forgotten all of what was being asked.
So it was, what about the competitive advantage? So what can you get at AGNR that you can't get somewhere else?
Well, the other thing is just the reputation of University of Maryland. Like I said, this is what drew me here. I've been in the business for almost 40 years. University of Maryland was one of those pinnacle institutions that really attracted me here, and it's really borne itself out. The other aspect, like I had mentioned before, we have one of the highest placement rates. We have one of the highest retention rates of students. When they come into our college, they tend to stay. Because they enjoy it so much. We're located near Washington, D.C. The other thing is, if you're interested in international work at all, absolutely. Study abroad is a program that I would really encourage you to be thinking about at some point in your career. I have 3 of my own children, 2 of which did study abroad while they were in college. They wish that they had done it earlier, because if they had done it earlier, they could have done more than one. They did both of theirs in Mexico. My oldest daughter didn't do a study abroad, but she eventually, because of following her younger siblings' footsteps, actually spent 2 years in Panama. As a result of that, came back. She's a 4th grade teacher in Colorado, absolutely learned so much experience from that as well. So our study abroad program is very robust. And we bring in a lot of high-end international delegates into our college who are very interested in learning about what we do and who we do it with. We bring in individuals from Asia and from Africa and from Latin America, from Australia and all around, and from Europe, all around the world, probably because of where we're co-located. They come into Washington, D.C., they see that we're a land-grant university. We have agriculture and natural resources, and they come here. But it's an opportunity for these folks to interact with our students as well. There's so many different aspects that really provide a competitive advantage for coming to the University of Maryland that I hope would excite you, because I still get excited. I just think that it's a fantastic place.
Definitely is. It's a great place to be.
Yep.
Our students are phenomenal. Our staff are phenomenal. It's a great environment to be a part of. What would you say are some of the academic or research areas in which we make the greatest impact?
You know, I'll tell you, I'll do this in a kind of a large scale, but we have what we've developed 5 strategic initiatives, and these initiatives really do reflect overall the kind of work that we do in terms of research. We do a lot of, you can kind of drill down in each one of these and see that we do a lot of work in each one of these initiatives. But let me just share with you, one is that we are very focused on establishing a healthy food system and ensuring global food and nutritional security. And I think that you can see that now across the world right now with COVID-19, is that even probably in your own hometowns, you've got empty shelves in some areas, right? It might be difficult to find eggs, for instance, and it might be difficult to find toilet paper, which, believe it or not, is an agricultural product because it originates from trees. And you might see that, you know, there's difficulty in all different kinds of aspects that we've never even experienced before. You know, 20% of our population here in the United States is food insecure, believe it or not. And one of our focuses is not only to address food insecurity here in the United States and nutritional insecurity, but also throughout the world. Another strategic initiative is to ensure a clean and healthy Chesapeake Bay. So the Chesapeake Bay takes up about 20–25% of the overall land mass that we have here in Maryland, but it influences not only Maryland, but New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Washington, D.C., Virginia, Delaware. I mean, you name it, so many states are impacted by it. It's the largest estuary in North America, and over 18 million people depend upon the Chesapeake Bay for their livelihoods. We do a lot of work in that area. And so many of the kinds of work that we might do in that area would be dealing with toxicity of the Chesapeake Bay, things that might create problems in the Chesapeake Bay in terms of nutrients that get into the Chesapeake Bay, algae production. In fact, we've got students right now that are capturing algae out of Baltimore Harbor and converting that algae into either fertilizer or into logs that can be burned for fuel, believe it or not. They're coming up with some really innovative kinds of things that they're doing along those lines. That cleans up the bay, but it also provides fuel and it provides fertilizer that we desperately need. Another area is that we are focused on sustaining agricultural production. You know, about less than 2% of our overall population produces food for well over 350 million people here in the United States, and globally for many, many more millions of people worldwide. And so we have an advanced agricultural production system here, and we're very, very focused on sustaining that. Another area, a strategic initiative, is looking at improving human, animal, and environmental health. And that probably is no more important than what you're seeing right now with COVID-19. If you've read anything about these tigers, for instance, that have gotten COVID-19, tigers. So that virus transmits somehow from the human dimension to animals and back and forth. Well, we're looking at ways of preventing that. We're looking at ways of vaccinating humans and animals and the like, and so that's important. And then a fifth area is optimizing the urban environment and making sure that we prevent food deserts from occurring, making sure that we've got faculty that are looking at sea level rise and how they can actually protect coastal communities from being overridden by rising sea levels. We've got stormwater management. If any of you are familiar with Ellicott City and the 2 500-year floods that they've had in the last 3 years, that's all due to bad stormwater management. We got faculty working on that as well. So agriculture and natural resources is not just looking at food production, you know, planting a seed and watching it grow. I mean, we do that, and we do that very, very well, and that's fundamentally important. But we're also looking at the processing of food, the storage of food, the impact of climate change on the human dimension, youth development, you name it, we look at it. A lot of people don't realize that. Turf management is a big area for us as well. So.
Definitely. The work of this college is central to all of our lives. I think that's the biggest thing. I know somebody asked if they didn't grow up in a rural area or a farming community, you know, would they still find a place in AGNR? And I think you answered that pretty well in just showing the breadth of the experiences we offer here and the topics that we cover through our research. And as students, you'd have the opportunity to be engaged in all of this and be on the forefront of the next big thing, so to speak. So thank you for that. Dr. Beyrouty, we're going to move on to some of the pre-submitted questions. Sure. For all of our students in the room, if you have questions that will come up, we'll get to the live questions in a moment, so be thinking of those. But we're going to cover those that you submitted when you registered. So our first question is, did you ever feel overwhelmed by the size of University of Maryland? And what were some of the things or opportunities available that helped make the big university feel small?
You know what? I'm going to say just a little bit on that, but it would be great if some of our students would weigh in on that as well, because they're the ones that really experience that, right? And I think it's like what I had told you before, is that, you know, you've got a university, and when you think about a university of 40,000 students, it sounds like a lot, right? And really, in the change of classes, you actually see that there's 40,000 students here. I mean, they're walking all over the place, going from one classroom to the next and so forth. And it's really kind of exciting to see that. But the reality of it is that you're going to be embedded within your own department. You're going to get to know your faculty. You're going to get to know students and staff. You're going to be involved in student organizations. You may work on the campus farm. You may work in a laboratory, and that actually becomes your home. And that condenses or consolidates something that might appear by first glance to be very, very large to something that is actually very, very small, and that becomes your home. And it's actually very comfortable to walk into the buildings that house your classrooms and your teachers and so forth. Heather or April, I'm gonna pass it to you to pass it to one of the other students.
Sure. I'm going to let Monet answer that first, and then Bella or Aaron, if they have questions or things to add, I'm going to let them pop in too.
Oh, there we go. Hi, everyone. So excited to see all your faces. I recognize some of you from the panels that we've done on campus, so it's nice to see you back here again. So I want to talk about like what it felt like to first enter campus. So it can definitely be overwhelming, especially when you're first moving into your freshman year dorm and you're like saying goodbye to your parents, especially if you're like me and you've never really left home until college. But you start to find things like Dean Beyrouty was saying on campus that really draw you in. So for me, I thought that I wanted to be a vet for a long time. And so I went in thinking of those opportunities, but then I kind of expanded my horizons and I became a guided study session leader. And whenever I would go into the listserv and see opportunities open up, I would be like, you know what, that sounds interesting. Let me try it out. So it's kind of just like putting yourself out there. You really can make the huge college seem really small because you start to build that network. And I would definitely say just you start to recognize people in the building and you have classes with the same people. So you get that small school feel in such a large university, but then you can go outside of the school and really get to go to other places and again, expand your horizons. So you have the option to make it small, but then you can also branch out. So I think that's the nice thing about such a large university.
Aaron or Bella, if you have anything you want to add, you're welcome to.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh, go ahead.
oh, go ahead. Okay, so I mean, I'm a sophomore and not gonna lie, like I've never been to a school so big and I was super overwhelmed at first, but like I could personally say like I'm an animal science major that every professor that I've had in the animal science program, I've gotten to personally know. And like even just going to the office hours and just dropping in to say hello, like you build like a personal connection with professors that you're going to have for the next 4 years, which I think is really special. And I don't think that any of my other friends have that kind of connection with their professors at other schools. And I feel like any class I walk into at this point that's related to animal science or even just general chem and bio, I know at least 6 people in that class. And usually like, you can make study groups and things like that. And it does make the major and like the school seem a lot smaller than it is. But again, as Monet said, to like, you could also branch out because we do go to such a big university.
Yeah, I would just say like the same thing that you both said, basically, is that it's in the College of Ag, at least, you see the same people every day, basically, which I guess sounds kind of boring, but it's actually comforting, in my opinion. And I think like a lot of people that are in just general, like if a general chem major or a larger major, they don't really have that to the same extent that we do.
Thanks, ladies. Appreciate that. Great insight there from our current students who I got the years wrong of, but they've all been great students. That's great. So our next question we had asked was, what kinds of hands-on experiences are available to our students?
So in addition to what you learn in the classroom, hands-on, I mean, agriculture and natural resources is an applied science. You know, it's kind of like physics or chemistry are basic sciences, but then meteorology and climatology and oceanography are applied sciences. They apply physics and chemistry. We do the same thing. We apply biological sciences, we apply the chemical sciences, we apply the mathematical sciences, depends on what you want to get. And so by the very nature of the work that we do, it's hands-on. As a matter of fact, much of what we do is learn by doing, right? So number one, you have your laboratories that oftentimes are associated with the classes that you take. I had mentioned the campus farm before. We also have other research centers around the state. We have 8 locations around the state where we do research, and some of our students actually do work on those research centers. And that's where we actually have a dairy in one, we have orchards on another one, we have vegetables and pumpkins and squash on another one, we have poultry on another one, and we also work with the Chesapeake Bay on another one. So there's lots of different opportunities for students to get a lot of hands-on experience that way as well. In addition to that, students actually are involved, for instance, as a soil scientist. A lot of my studies that I had in soils, I got inside soil pits and learned how to describe soils and how they differed from one location to the next. I textured by feel, and that was, believe it or not, that was exciting for me, right? May not be for you, but it was exciting for me. And so different things float different people's boats. But the whole idea here is that you will get experience. You're going to learn about things that you'll actually apply not only during your internships, but also in your career when you get out of here. And so you'll actually be able to hit the ground running. One of the things I'm very, very proud about with our students is that our employers constantly tell us they want more of our students over and over again, that our students not only know what's in the book, but they know how to apply what's in the book to real life situations.
Thank you. You mentioned internships, and we had quite a few questions about internships. Can you mention, and our students can jump in too, what kinds of internship opportunities available? How do they find one? And when is a good time to start? And I can repeat any of that.
Thank you, because I may forget my old age. Let's talk about internships in general. Internships, you know, they weren't really required when I was in school, but it was an opportunity that I thought was important so that I could determine whether or not the major that I was in was the right one. And for me, it turned out that it was. And that's one of the reasons that I think you'll want to do an internship, not only from the standpoint of, you know, getting more experience, but really testing the waters and making sure that the major that you're in is the right major, right? Because we want you to not only be an outstanding TERP grad, but we want you to be passionate about your major, because that's a lifelong career decision. And so doing an internship allows you to test the waters. That's important. The other aspect of an internship, though, is that when you leave here, the internship, again, allows you to apply what you're learning in class, and it stimulates you when you come back to class after you've done that internship. So when I worked for the Soil Conservation Service, I tell you, I was probably the only one in my class that was so excited about texturing soil and characterizing soils in a soil pit afterwards. And the reason for that is that I spent a whole summer doing that, and I saw the application of that. And I was working with people in the field where that's what they did day to day, and they got excited about it as well. I wanted to learn as much as I could about it. And those are I think some of the benefits of the internships that you'll find. We have a great career center within our academic programs office. As a matter of fact, the person who coordinates that is Christina Farmer. And Christina we are so fortunate to have Christina on our staff and coordinating career placement and opportunities for internships. And so if you're interested in internships, you can certainly work through your advisor, but I would also work directly with Christina Farmer, because she's a wonderful connector. She's highly networked. She's a great resource, and she provides guidance along those lines. In terms of when to do internships, best time to do it, probably not in your freshman year. Your freshman year is, you know, there's a transition time. I don't care what size university you go to. If it was my 2,000 student university at Loyola, 40,000 at UCLA, or a Cal Poly, it didn't matter. That first year is always a transition year. You have to get used to the environment that you're in. So taking on too much that first year would be probably non-advisable. So doing the internship, I would suggest wait until your sophomore year and or your junior year to do your internship. Maybe that summer following your freshman year would be a good time to begin thinking about the internship, explore that. You could kind of test the waters a little bit along those lines, but certainly during your sophomore or junior year makes a lot of sense. April, did I hit that, or was there anything else that was asked?
You got it. You got it. Well
Dementia
done.
hasn't sunk in completely.
Not yet. So you mentioned in the internships, you know, we talked a little bit about sometimes you find what you love and sometimes you find that you have other interests as well, whether it's completely different or similar. So what about students who are interested in adding a second major or maybe switching between majors? Do you know if it's difficult to do that, whether it's in AGNR or not?
Well, and again, April, you can weigh in a lot on this as well. I would just say that I am amazed at the number of students that have double majors, and actually even double majors and minors, or even triple majors. It's just amazing to me that there are students that that's part of their overall academic program that they have developed, and they've worked with their advisors in order to help guide them along these lines. With regards to switching majors, I know April has schooled me a bit on that. That involves certainly your advisor, and there are offices on campus that can help with that. April, you might weigh in on that because you know more of the specific details about that than I do.
Yeah, and if Heather wants to weigh in, she can do so too. But yeah, certainly we have a lot of students who are pursuing double majors, dual degrees even, which is very similar to a double major. It's just a little bit different in some technical things, both within the college and outside. If you're interested in double majoring, the first step is talking to an advisor, whether it's your assigned academic advisor or a peer mentor, because they can help you plan that out and see how long it would take to graduate. If you're doing a double major in a program that's very similar to the first one that you're doing, there tends to be some overlap and it tends to be a little easier. But if you're going to do a double major in something like animal science and philosophy, that might be a little more challenging to pursue. But Heather, did you want to add something to that?
Yeah, so it's really easy to assume a double major on campus, and something that a lot of students don't know before coming into the university is that you can also pursue a double degree, which is that when you're pursuing a double major, you can choose 2 different majors to complete within one bachelor's degree. A double degree is where you complete 2 separate bachelor's degrees within just a short amount of time. So I don't want to get too into the weeds about it, but with one bachelor's degree, it's 120 credits. For 150 credits, just 30 credits more, you can walk out the door with 2 separate bachelor's degrees in two different areas. So that's a really great opportunity for students who are considering doing a double major. And when they start to realize like, oh, this is a few too many credits, maybe I don't want to do this, maybe this isn't worth it, that double degree comes in, and that is just an amazing opportunity that's available for you at the university. But going back to changing majors and adding minors, students can double major. I even have a student who is triple majoring. You can assume 1 or 2 or even 3 minors. You can make this degree absolutely what you want it to be, and your advisors and administrators like me are here to help you turn that degree into exactly what you want it to be and make sure you get exactly what you want out of your time at the university.
Great, Heather. Perfect.
That's
I've
a
learned
great
a lot
point.
just by listening.
You know, Heather mentioning that, you know, we're here for you first and foremost.
You bet.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Heather's up. I'm going to ask another question, which I have a feeling you're going to send to her anyway, is if a student is ready to already go ahead and be a term, you know, we had some questions about how do they sign up for classes. So what are their next steps at this point? And I can answer that if you want me to.
Do you want me to jump in on that one?
Good idea, Heather. That'd be great.
Okay. All right. So the next step, once you've come into the university and you've decided on your major and you're going to be joining AGNR the next thing that you will be doing is signing up for orientation. And our first orientation taking place over the summer is the very first week of June. So when you attend orientation, it's typically in person. This year we will be fully online for orientation, but I'll be running that. We'll go over all our presentations, make sure that you get everything you need to be prepared to come to the university. You're going to learn how to register for classes. You're going to learn all about campus, all about the clubs that we offer, all of the opportunities for living learning communities, everything that you might want to be involved in on campus. You're going to learn about that while you're at the university, or while you're attending orientation, that is. And then while you're attending orientation, as I mentioned before, we'll go over how to register for classes. And then we'll actually go through registration with you. We'll walk you through how to register, and then we'll get you into your first classes for the semester. So you will get to meet with your advisor during the orientation period, and they'll lead you through your 4-year plan and get you started on some first semester classes. And then from there, they'll help direct you on your next steps for planning your next semesters after that, whether that is to set up another meeting with them to come back and discuss one-on-one, or to meet with one of our great peer mentors that we have in the college. We'll get you all set up at orientation and register for classes in one fall swoop. Very easy process, I promise.
Absolutely. And if you're admitted to the Institute of Applied Agriculture, the Institute will be sending you information specific to the orientation programs to the Institute as well. So be on the lookout for that, but their process is very similar to the one that Heather mentioned for the 4-year programs. So at this point, we do have a couple other pre-submitted questions, but we want to make sure we have time to answer any questions of people who are here live. So if you have a question, you'll go to the participant screen and click the raise your hand button. And once I see that, I can call on you. So if you have a question, feel free to do that now. If you don't, I would go back to our pre-submitted questions. And while I'm talking, you can continue to raise your hand. So I'm just going to wait a second. Looks like we have a question. All right, I'm going to unmute our first question, which is from Karina Joseph. Go ahead, Karina.
Would you recommend majoring in food science and animal science? And is there a 5-year master program for either of those majors?
Great question. So the question is, do you recommend double majoring in programs like food science and animal science? And is there any 5-year master's programs? Dr. Beyrouty, do you want to take a stab at that, or you want us to handle it over here? I'm going to let Heather answer that question.
So right now we do have 2 5-year master's programs in the college. One of them is for environmental science and technology. The other one is for agricultural and resource economics. So we currently don't have a 5-year program built into food science or animal science, but we do have them available on campus. Of course, within the next couple of years, we could be potentially rolling out more of those 5-year programs. They are really gaining speed and popularity. So there's always a potential that we could roll out a 5-year program for some of our other programs, but I don't know if there are any others in the works right now, but I can say that we do have them for environmental science and tech and agricultural resource economics. As far as double majoring in animal science and I believe you said nutrition and food science, you can do that. A lot of your science classes are like your chemistry, your gen chem, your biology classes. Those are going to overlap. So a lot of your prerequisite courses will overlap between those 2 majors, which is great. Your general education for both degrees or both majors would overlap for the most part. Now, is that going to necessarily be a short program? It's hard to say. It depends on if you're bringing any AP credits in, if you're bringing any transfer credits in with you. And then from there, it really just depends on kind of how you move through the program. So I can't, without looking at like a 4-year plan or 5-year plan with you, I can't necessarily say how long it would take, but you could absolutely double major in both of those with the college.
that's something to be aware of. Like anytime you add a double major or multiple minors, it can potentially add time to graduation. So that's one reason we recommend speaking with an advisor anytime that you're making those plans, not because you can't, and you can't do it in 4 years, but just so we're being the most planful that you can make the most out of your time at Maryland. Do we have any other questions from the audience? Again, just raise your hand on the participant screen. If you can't figure that out, I understand this is new technology for some of us. You can pop it in the chat and I can call on you to ask it live as well. So okay.
While you're waiting, April, just to let you know, based upon the information that you provided me, we've got students here from not only Maryland, but California, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Virginia, Washington, Connecticut. So, I mean, that's one of the other exciting things about coming here, is that students from all over the United States and actually all over the world come to the University of Maryland. You'll be interacting with students with so many different backgrounds and so many different other experiences.
Yeah. Yeah, we have students from all over. It's a great environment, and University of Maryland represents that as well. You know, I get some questions sometimes from students where majority of their high school class may come to Maryland, and they're like, oh gosh, am I only going to see my classmates I've seen the last 4 years? And the answer is no. If you don't want to, you don't have to. But likewise, if you know, you get the opposite too, of people, random people from across the country who may have things in common with you. It's just a really cool environment to be in. I don't see any other questions being asked right now, but another question that we had submitted to us in advance was, if a student plans to commute and not live on campus, how do they stay involved and make the most of their University of Maryland experiences?
So I'll take a stab at that.
I'm frozen.
And then maybe our students could weigh in on that as well. And the reason why I'll take a stab is that the first 2 universities that I attended, I was a commuter. Certainly the one at UCLA, you know, I spent a lot of time on the interstate getting over to the campus and then leaving. But I tried to embed myself on campus while I was there. I spend not only just the time that I was there for the coursework, but also working in laboratories. And so I had a part-time job working in a laboratory, and it was a geology laboratory, and I got to know the faculty and the students there as well. I went over to the student union and participated in a variety of events that they had there. I participated in student organizations. And so, you know, it doesn't matter, I don't think, if you're living on campus or off campus. Off campus, you do have to dedicate more time there, because it's not just a natural thing to do, right? It's not that you just live there and walk outside your dorm door and you're already there. You commit yourself some time, and you actually should pencil it into your calendar, your schedule, that this is the block of time that I'm going to remain on campus, and I'm going to be available for student activities and student organizations and those kinds of things. And so I actually found that, for me anyway, it didn't matter if I lived on campus or off campus. I just loved being on a campus. Still do. I commute into work all the time. Still embrace being on campus. So maybe our students could weigh in on that.
I mean, probably the best thing that I've done since I've been on campus is just to get super involved in any club that even remotely interests you, because, or even something that doesn't interest you, you'd be surprised at the things that end up being one of your favorite hobbies, and like the friends that you'll make in different majors and different schools. And I have plenty of friends that are commuters, and they almost have no issue with getting involved on campus just because there are so many opportunities. So yeah.
There's also a lot of opportunities for on-campus jobs. Like I work like inside the gym, at the bike shop, and at the rock climbing wall, and that's a really great way to make a lot of friends and hang out on campus while getting paid, which is a bonus. And yeah, so that's a good way to pencil in your time on campus as well.
I was gonna say, like, echoing that, I also work on campus in STAMP, the student union. And I would also say to just like hang out in communal spaces, like literally when it's warm outside. April is on the fountain right now. Go to the ODK fountain and you'll see people in their hammocks out there, like playing like soccer, like everything. Go there or go in the Keldon Library, get yourself a coffee and sit on the first floor, like hang out with your friends on campus. That way you don't feel disconnected from it, and you can really make that your space.
Very good.
Yeah, really great advice. That's the biggest thing is you just have to, you know, take time. Don't just come to class and leave. You know, find those spaces and those places that can become your third place, your home while you're at Maryland, and you spend this time there and get involved. It's what you make it. College is all about what you make it in all aspects. So that's really important. Dr. Beyrouty, I have a couple more questions.
Sure.
If we have time. One question is, when doing research, are you working with a professor or a graduate student, or are you doing it on your own?
Good question, actually. I think it's all of the above. More than likely, you'll be working with in a laboratory or maybe in the greenhouse, or could even be in the field, working shoulder to shoulder with graduate students and getting interacted at some level with the faculty member. Most faculty work very closely with their undergraduate students to teach them about the scientific process, and so to engage them in the overall science. That's something that is something that we have an awful lot of pride in. So undergraduate research is an important aspect of what we do. We are a student-centered university, but we are also research-driven. So our students can, if they are interested in that, get experience with that as well. But in terms of doing it on your own, we actually have projects, and these are special projects that students can actually sign up for, where they actually, under the guidance of typically a faculty member, can actually develop a project independently, or they might be working with other students, one way or the other. So it's a broad spectrum of opportunities. For instance, we have a student recently graduated who was actually working in hydroponics, and he was looking at a whole new hydroponic system, way of producing food this way. And actually, he's taken that system now, and he's developing that as an innovative application after graduation. So a possible career opportunity that way as well. So we have lots of different ways that students can gain that kind of experience and work very, very closely with other students and other faculty. You bet, it's very dynamic.
Great. Thank you so much. We have one more question, then I'll ask you for your parting words, if that's okay with your time.
Absolutely.
The question is, how are the IAA programs different from the University of Maryland programs, if they are, and how do they work together?
I can answer that, but April or Heather, you all, because you advise along those lines, you might answer it more succinctly than I could.
Yep, and Becky Jones is here from the Institute.
I'm Becky,
so
that's great.
Actually, Becky, would you like to talk a little bit more about that? You probably have a little better insight. Oh, you're on mute still.
There we go. Yeah, so as a Institute of Applied Agriculture student, you are a University of Maryland student. And that's, like, of course, why you're invited here. So in many aspects, it looks very, very similar to that of a University of Maryland student. Where it differs is primarily how you're advised. And so for many of our students, we understand that they are seeking a bachelor's degree. Specifically, what we offer is a 2-year certificate program. And so for the first 2 years, you'll be working on a certificate, which is the equivalent of an associate's degree. Your courses are taught here at the University of Maryland. You'll have access to everything, and you're advised on a 4-year plan. And so that looks different for everyone. You know, maybe you're a student who's interested in studying animal science. So maybe you study agricultural business management with us. And then you're also taking some animal science courses as well. And so there's really several different pathways for you to get there, but ultimately, in the end, you're still a University of Maryland student. You're working on 2 credentials instead of 1. And I'm happy to answer any other specific questions about our program and the different tracks. So it is slightly different than majors. So hopefully that kind of answers some of the confusion.
And Becky, you guys have a chat coming up, right?
Yes, yeah, we do. So we have a chat on Monday, the 20th at 10 a.m. And I sent that out to our students, and it'll be on our social media as well. It'll be very, very similar to this, but you'll have the opportunity to meet our director and the advisors for the different tracks. So we're really excited about that as well.
Great. And if you want to, you can pop the link in the chat too.
Perfect.
Yeah. And I'll also be adding a link to the animal science chat. So if there's anyone in animal science, I know we had some questions about some specifics. They're actually hosting a chat on Tuesday as well to talk all about the animal science degree. But yeah, as Becky mentioned, IA students are part of the University of Maryland. You can do everything a Maryland student can do. Difference is the credential that you're working on. But if you want to also achieve a bachelor's, we have the advising plans for that. So it's just kind of a sub part of our university and our college. So no huge difference. So we're getting very close to time. And if people have other questions, we can continue to answer those via email. Kristen, our coordinator, will pop in some emails and some information into the chat so that you know who to contact. But before we wrap up, I want to ask Dr. Beyrouty if he has any parting words of advice or just information he'd like to share about the college.
April, thanks. And first of all, I want to thank you and Heather and the whole group from the academic programs office. I think that this is an example of the passion that our folks have for our students and the excitement that they have for the education that you're going to be getting if you decide to come to the University of Maryland. Let me leave you with our rooftop statement. And this is something that we spent a lot of time thinking about and working on. Actually, it's on the back of my business card so that everybody that gets a business card from me, they actually see what it is that really drives us and what we're passionate about. And I'll read it verbatim to you. It says, "We embody the university's land-grant mission with a commitment to eliminate hunger and malnutrition, to preserve our natural resources, to improve quality of life, and to empower the next generation through world-class education." We really believe that the education that we provide here will set the stage for you in the future for allowing you to do anything that you want to do. If you want to get directly into a career job opportunity when you leave here, working with the industry, government, doesn't make any difference. We prepare you for that. If you want to go on to graduate school, we prepare you for that. If you want to go to medical school, if you want to go to law school, if you want to get into veterinary medicine, if you want to be a dentist, we've got alums that fit all of those categories and even beyond. If you want to work in the international community, I can't tell you the number of times that I've traveled to Africa and Asia and have met Terps, alums from our university who are located all around the world. And when you meet a Terp or a fellow Terp, you find that you already have a strong connection with that individual, and you'll meet these people all around the world. I know that this is a big decision for you. We want to make sure that whatever decision that you make, you have all the information that you need in order to make the right decision. If this is not the right place for you, we want to make sure that you know that. But if it's the right place for you and you're thinking of somewhere else, we want you to know that this is the right place for you to come, because we have an outstanding program and we have an incredibly supportive group of faculty and staff who think of you not as a number, but as a person. And I just want to encourage you, if you've got any other questions or any other concerns, or if your parents or family, or friends have any questions at all, please reach out to us so that we can address those questions for you and help you with your thought process. So I'm going to go ahead and stop at that point. Thank
Thank
you.
you so much, Dr. Beyrouty, for being here today. We really appreciate your insight and your questions. We've put a bunch of information to the chat in terms of connecting with people. If you have additional questions that we didn't get to today, we know this is a very short time and a very big decision. So we want to make sure that you have all the information you need to make sure that you are making the right choice for you, as Dr. Beyrouty mentioned. I'm going to end the formal part of the chat at this moment. We really appreciate everyone coming out. If you have more conversations you'd like to have right now, I'm happy to stick around. I know Monet, one of our ambassadors, is happy to stick around, and maybe some of our other staff and faculty in the room. You're welcome to put questions into the chat or ask questions to us. But I want to thank the Dean for his time. I know he's a very busy man with a very busy schedule. So
this is a high priority. So thank you.
Absolutely.
All right, well, I'm going to leave the meeting and thank you all for being here. It's great to see everybody. Have a good weekend. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.